Hey guys, in this video, I'll be reviewing the 1991 Mr. Olympia, specifically focusing on the top two, Dorian Yates and Lee Haney. This was Lee's 8th and final Olympia win before he retired, whereas Dorian Yates was just getting things started. I do believe that this was a very competitive competition, with both bringing great conditioning, muscularity, and presentation, so it will be interesting to see how close it really was. Now, before the video does start, if you guys enjoy my content, a like and sub would be much appreciated. With that all being said though, let's get into this video. Alright, starting off this comparison is the first pose, the front double, and in this pose it should be immediately obvious who is winning. Lee has so much dominance in the upper body, presenting an impressive V-taper and vacuum, great flaring lats, and huge arms. While Dorian has great lats and a tapered midsection, nothing in his upper body looks as impressive or more conditioned than Lee's. Both have great sets of quads and calves, and I'd say that it is certainly close in that area. However, the overall pose looks more complete for Haney. Here's another look, and here we get a closer look at their conditioning, size, and overall aesthetics. From this picture, it is definitely more clear that Dorian wasn't far behind Haney in size. However, in terms of flow, shape, and aesthetics, come on guys, I mean Haney smokes Dorian. He has a much more seamless V-taper, cleaner and more defined quad separation, and looks thicker overall. While this picture does make it look closer overall, I'd still have Lee taking the pose. The front lat spread is a pose that Dorian would eventually come to master, and here you can see the framework that would lead to this world-class and very dominant pose. That being said, he doesn't look as dominant as he eventually would, as Lee clearly has similar lat coverage and looks a lot denser than Dorian. He does somewhat sacrifice width in order to achieve this denser look, which is something that Dorian has for days. He looks much more aesthetic and posing and relaxed, and everything flows very well. Haney's front lat spread almost reminds me of Ronnie Coleman, as, he's shrugging his shoulders up and really scrunching up to look very thick. Now, both are, very conditioned and have similar levels of muscularity, so it really comes down to preference in my opinion. Since that is the case, I'd go with Dorian due to his superior presentation. However, Lee could take this one too, as he's comparable in virtually every aspect. The side chest is an interesting pose, as I'm not as impressed with either as I feel like I should be. Lee's normally thick and dense chest looks shallow due to him flexing his closer pec, while Dorian doesn't look as big in the arm, delt, and chest as he would just a few years later. With that being said, I think both do look very comparable, as their side legs, arms, and chests are similar in development and separation. Dorian does show more detail across his side leg, however Lee has similar depth to the cuts and equal conditioning upstairs. Since the angles are a bit off, let's take a look at a second picture for the upper body. Here you can see that the overall separation and size are very similar, as both are fighting tooth and nail for the win. Even in 1991, Dorian's grainy conditioning shines, as his delt and arm look super dry, and his far pec is striated perfectly. Lee looks great too, showcasing similar mass and more pop to his delt, and his chest looks better than before. While this one is definitely close, I'd probably go with Dorian for his drier, grainier look, coupled with his tremendous side leg and upper body. He poses so well compared to Lee and presents comparable mass. The rear double is another pose in which Dorian would come to dominate, however, it seems like it's pretty close here. Both have nearly identically sized arms, great thick backs, and solid hamstrings. However, neither showcase strided glutes, and Dorian's hamstrings overall, though, look better in my opinion, better developed and better separated. Now, this second look shows you that both were very competitive in terms of size. Their backs are almost about the same width, however, Haney showcases a bit more thickness to the lower back, plus he is more genetically symmetrical. Additionally, Lee's delts look very impressive, as they are peeled and massive. So far, I do see Dorian winning the lower body due to his superior hamstrings and calves, while Haney would win the upper body for his ever so slightly better back, superior delts, and better symmetry. This is definitely a close call, however, I'd go with Lee for the win probably. I think he's super underrated in the back, and it's clear that he is better in that area compared to this smaller, not yet fully developed Dorian. Here's a look at their Christmas trees, and here it shows you just how conditioned both were. When I do think of Lee, I never really think of his lats being feathered, however this pose showcases that he really did have those striations that Dorian was so famous for having. You can also notice that Dorian's lower body advantage is pretty clear, however Haney really does look pretty decent and has that undeniable thickness advantage in the back as well. The rear lat spread, like the rear double, is a very close pose. Like in the last two shots, Dorian wins in the lower body because he just has so much more mass in the hamstrings and better calves. However, Haney looks respectable in both areas and showcases what looks to be faint striations in his glutes. Since Lee is closer to the camera, it gives him a more favorable angle and makes him look larger than he really is, so let's take a look at a more fair comparison. Although this picture is dark and lacks their lower bodies, you can clearly see the depth, the separation, and the width of their backs. Lee looks a whole lot thicker in the lower back, while Dorian has a dry, separated look to his. Both are about the same width, however, Haney's muscle density is on another level. Like I said, this pose is extremely close, so that means that there is an argument for both winning. I personally prefer Lee's crazy thick looking back overall. However, Dorian's separation and superior lower body might objectively win. I'd probably give the win to Dorian for that reason, however, like I said, Lee looks amazing as well. The side tricep is definitely not a pose that I think of as being one of Lee's best, whereas I'd be confident in saying it's always been a Dorian Yates classic. Dorian looks flawless, presenting a huge arm, great tricep, flush midsection, and solid side leg. Lee, on the other hand, looks massive in the chest and delt. However, he doesn't press his arm up against his body, which detracts from its overall width and size. Moreover, his unconventional posing style makes his side leg look less impressive than it really is, and his midsection doesn't really look to be at its all-time best. While he isn't necessarily bad in the pose, Dorian's complete lack of true flaws and that amazing trailing calf really seal the deal for the win. Since the most muscular wasn't a mandatory pose, the ab and thigh is going to be the last pose of this comparison. Neither are a Frank Zane, nor are they a Phil Heath. Basically what I mean is that neither are amazing nor horrendous, as both have solid abs, tight midsection, solid V-tapers, and pretty good quads. I've never been a huge fan of Lee's ab and thigh due to the split in the middle. However, it's undeniable that he looks more massive in the upper body while retaining just as small of a midsection as Dorian's. This second picture shows you that Lee had some phenomenal quad separation, a small waist, and some incredible lats. Dorian didn't look all too bad in the last picture. If anything, he looked pretty great. However, Lee is so dominant, wide, and separated overall. I'd probably give Dorian an advantage in the abdominals alone, however, I'd give Lee the win everywhere else. Alright guys, that about does it for this video. In short, I'd Lee winning this comparison 4-3, however the back poses, side chest, and front lat spread were definitely debatable. Regardless, I do think that Haney deserved to win, as he was still larger and denser than Dorian in some of the poses, while coming in with great conditioning. Dorian also wasn't at his best in terms of size or conditioning, but definitely put up a solid fight. Let me know down below if you had this comparison playing out differently or if you agreed with this outcome, and also let me know if there are any ideas you'd like to see turned into a video. With that all being said though, I hope you all enjoyed this video and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.